I found the pregnancy test in our bathroom trash 3 weeks after my wife announced she was pregnant. The timeline didn't match. Nothing would ever match again. Let me back up. My name is Ryan Donovan. I'm 36 years old, and for the last 12 years, I've been the football coach and history teacher at Millbrook High School here in Millbrook Falls, Wisconsin. Population, 8,200. The kind of town where everyone knows everyone's business. Where Friday night football isn't just a game, it's the heartbeat of the community. Where I thought I knew exactly who I was. I grew up here. My father, Tom Donovan, coached football for 23 years before his heart gave out during my junior year of college. I was supposed to go to the NFL, had scouts watching, had the speed, had the knee that could cut on a dime. Then one bad tackle, one surgery that didn't take, and suddenly my future looked very different. So I came home, back to Millbrook, back to the school where my father taught me everything about honor and integrity and what it means to be a man. I took over his coaching position. I wear his whistle around my neck every single day, tarnished silver with a red braided lanyard, his name engraved on the side, Coach Tom Donovan, 1978-2019. When I blow it, the sound is sharp enough to cut through a stadium full of screaming fans. Sharp enough to stop time. That whistle was around my neck the morning I found the test. It was a Tuesday. Jennifer had already left for school. She teaches elementary art at Millbrook Elementary, works with kindergarten through 5th grade. Our daughter Sophie was in her room getting ready, and I was looking for my phone charger in the bathroom drawer. That's when I saw it. The box, crumpled in the trash beneath some tissues and cotton swabs. Clearblue. Blue and white cardboard, one corner crushed from being thrown away. There was a plastic window on the front, and even through the cellophane, I could see the test stick inside. The word pregnant in tiny digital letters. My hands were shaking when I picked it up. The box made this light crinkling sound, that particular noise cardboard makes when it's been slightly damp and then dried. It smelled clinical, medical. The kind of smell that makes your stomach drop. But it was the text on the side of the box that made me sit down on the edge of the bathtub. 5 days early detection, results 5 days before missed period. I pulled out my phone, opened the calendar, started counting backwards. Jennifer had announced her pregnancy 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. We'd been trying for a while to give Sophie a sibling, so when she told me over breakfast, tears in her eyes, holding a different test, I'd been thrilled. We'd celebrated. I'd kissed her, called my brother Connor in Milwaukee, told Coach Pete at school. But this box with 5 days early detection written on it, if she'd tested 5 days before her missed period, I counted the dates twice, then 3 times. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the phone. Twice. The math was simple, brutal, undeniable. 3 weeks ago when she told me, she'd already known for 3 weeks before that. 6 weeks total, 6 weeks pregnant now, which meant conception was... I thought about our anniversary 2 months ago. We'd tried that weekend, but the dates didn't line up, not even close. And then I remembered 8 weeks ago, Jennifer had gone to Chicago for an art education workshop, a 3-day conference, Thursday through Sunday. She'd been excited about it. Her mother, Linda, had encouraged her to go, even drove up from their suburb to stay with Sophie while I coached a Friday night game. I picked up the phone again, calculated one more time. The conception date matched that Chicago weekend. Exactly. I stared at that crushed blue and white box in my hands. Jennifer had tested the moment she got home. She'd known for 3 weeks, 3 full weeks, and had to decide whether to tell me the truth or commit to the lie. She chose the lie. The bathroom door was still closed. Sophie was singing down the hall some Taylor Swift song about summer and innocence. Through the window, I could see Main Street 2 blocks over, the morning sun hitting the brick buildings just right, making Millbrook look like a postcard, like home. I touched my father's whistle. The metal was cool against my palm, then warm, always warming. This town raised me. I'd built my entire adult life on the foundation my father laid: teach history, coach football, show young men what honor looks like. And now I was holding evidence that my wife, the mother of my 12-year-old daughter, had lied to my face for 3 weeks while I celebrated a pregnancy that might not even be mine. I wrapped the box in tissues, shoved it in my coat pocket, and went to make Sophie breakfast like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. That Friday night, the stadium was packed. 2,500 people in the stands, more than a quarter of our entire town. It was our third game of the season, and we were undefeated. The air smelled like popcorn and autumn leaves and that particular brand of hope that only exists under Friday night lights. I stood on the sideline, whistle in hand, watching my boys run plays I'd drilled into them 1,000 times. Marcus Johnson, our quarterback, had an arm that could thread a needle. Jackson Torres at receiver could catch anything within a 3-foot radius. These kids trusted me. They listened when I talked about discipline and character and doing the right thing even when it's hard. I blew the whistle. The sound cut clean through the noise, that sharp, piercing note that makes everyone stop and pay attention. "Tighter formation," I called out. "Jackson, you're drifting. Stay focused." My hand found the whistle again, gripped it, knuckles going white. In the stands, I could see Jennifer sitting with Sophie in our usual section. My daughter had her purple canvas sketchbook open on her lap. She always drew during games, said it helped her process the chaos and noise of the crowd. The book was covered in band stickers: Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, names that meant everything to 12-year-old girls. The spiral binding caught the stadium lights as she flipped pages. Even from the sideline, I could see her drawing. Quick strokes with colored pencils, her hand moving across the paper with the same confident rhythm I'd seen 1,000 times. Jennifer sat beside her, but there was space between them. Not much, maybe 6 inches, but enough that you'd notice if you were looking. Jennifer's mother, Linda, was on her other side, wearing that coral and navy Hermes scarf she'd been wearing all week. Silk, expensive, the kind that whispered when it moved. I watched Linda lean over and say something to Jennifer, watched my wife nod, touch the scarf at her throat. Linda smiled. "Coach Donovan." I turned. Coach Pete Henderson, my defensive coordinator and my father's best friend for 40 years, was standing beside me. "You okay, son?" His voice was quiet enough that the players couldn't hear. "You've been gripping that whistle like you're trying to strangle it." I looked down. My knuckles were actually white. I forced my hand open. "I'm fine, Coach." "Your daddy taught me something." Pete's eyes were on the field, but I knew he was really watching me. "He said you can't coach honor if you're not living it. Whatever's going on in that head of yours, it's affecting your focus. And when the coach isn't focused, the team feels it." On the field, Marcus threw an interception. The crowd groaned. I should have seen it coming. I should have called a different play. But I'd been thinking about blue and white boxes and Chicago weekends and 3 weeks of lies. I blew the whistle, called the team in. "That's on me," I told them. "I called the wrong play. We're going to reset. Marcus, you did exactly what I asked. This one's my fault." 17-year-old boys looking at me with trust in their eyes, believing every word I said about responsibility and owning your mistakes. I glanced up at the stands. Sophie was holding up her sketchbook, showing me something she'd drawn. I gave her a thumbs up. She grinned, that gap-toothed smile that still hadn't fully grown in. I couldn't see the drawing from this distance, couldn't see how she'd drawn her mother, lighter, more transparent, fading at the edges while I stood solid and bright in the center. I didn't see it then. I would see it later, and it would break me. But right now, I just smiled at my daughter and turned back to the game, the whistle cool and heavy against my chest, and tried to remember what my father had taught me about honor. The game ended 28-24. We won. The crowd roared. My players lifted me on their shoulders like I'd done something heroic. I hadn't done anything at all. Monday morning, I walked into the school's main office during my free period. Maya Patel was in the staff room making copies. She's 33, teaches art at the middle school, and she and Jennifer had become friends when Jennifer transferred here 8 years ago from Chicago. Ryan. Maya looked up from the copy machine. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and the machine made that rhythmic thunking sound as it churned out worksheets. "Hey, can I ask you something?" "Sure." She glanced toward the door, then lowered her voice. "Jennifer mentioned that Chicago art workshop she went to back in August, the one about integrating modern techniques in elementary education." "Yeah?" "I was trying to find the organization that sponsored it, wanted to see if they're doing another one. But," Maya's forehead creased, "I can't find any record of it. No organization, no conference, nothing on the education board website. Do you remember the name of the group?" I felt something cold slide down my spine. She showed me a brochure. "Do you still have it?" I didn't, but I knew where Jennifer kept her teaching materials. That afternoon, while Jennifer was at a staff meeting and Sophie was at soccer practice, I went into our home office, found the file cabinet where Jennifer organized her professional development stuff. The brochure was right there in the front, glossy trifold, full-color photos of art supplies and studio spaces. Chicago Art Education Workshop, Modern Techniques for Elementary Educators in bold letters across the top. The paper was slippery between my fingers, that expensive, glossy stock that costs extra to print. It smelled like chemicals and ink. There was a stapled receipt attached, hotel charges from the Riverfront Plaza, line items for the room, parking, and room service for 2 people, $147 for a single dinner. I sat down at the desk, spread the brochure flat, looked for a phone number, a website, anything to verify this was real. There was a website listed. I typed it into my phone. Error 404, page not found. I tried different spellings, searched for the organization name in quotes, called the Illinois Department of Education, and asked if they had any record of this workshop. Nothing. No record. No organization. No workshop. Maya was right. The whole thing was fake. I picked up the receipt again, ran my thumb over the hotel logo. Embossed, you could feel it raised under your fingertip. The dates were right there. Thursday, August 17th through Sunday, August 20th. I pulled out my phone again, counted backwards from today. 8 weeks and 3 days. The conception window for a pregnancy that was now 6 weeks along. I sat there in our home office, surrounded by Jennifer's art prints and Sophie's elementary school drawings on the wall, holding a fake brochure and a hotel receipt that proved my wife had spent a weekend in Chicago with someone else, and I couldn't breathe. The room smelled like Jennifer's lavender hand lotion and old books and coffee. Normal smells, home smells. Everything about this house was a lie. My phone buzzed, text from Maya. "Did you find anything?" I stared at the message for a long moment. This was the moment I could tell her, could start making it real. Once I told someone else, once I said the words out loud, I couldn't take them back. I typed, "Yeah, I found it. The workshop was real." 3 seconds later, another text. "What was the organization name? I'd love to sign up." My thumb hovered over the keyboard. "Let me get back to you on that," I typed. "Jennifer's got the details." I was lying now too, protecting her, protecting us, protecting Sophie, or maybe just protecting myself from having to face what I already knew. If you've ever had that moment when you knew, really knew, someone you trusted was lying to you, just type "knew" in the comments. That sick feeling in your stomach, the way the world tilts sideways and nothing looks the same anymore. You're not alone. Let me tell you what I found next. I started looking, not in an obvious way. I couldn't let Jennifer know I suspected anything, but I started paying attention, noticing things like the business cards in her car. It was a Saturday morning. Jennifer had taken Sophie to her art class in town, and I'd stayed home to mow the lawn. But I'd forgotten my phone in Jennifer's car from the night before, so I walked out to grab it. The center console was open. She always left it that way, tossing receipts and random items inside. And there, beneath some gas station receipts and a chapstick, was a stack of business cards held together with a rubber band. I picked them up. Heavy charcoal gray cardstock, silver embossed lettering that you could feel raised under your fingertips. Derek Allen Mitchell, Principal, Mitchell Development Group. Modern, minimalist design. The cards were thick, almost like thin wood, and they smelled faintly of leather, like they'd been kept in an expensive wallet. I flipped the first card over. There was a date written on the back in Jennifer's handwriting. August 11th. The second card, August 18th. The third, August 23rd. I pulled off the rubber band, started counting, 1, 5, 10. My hands were shaking now. 15, 16, 17. 17 business cards, 17 different dates, all written in Jennifer's neat, looping handwriting. Every single date matched a day Jennifer had told me she was at school late, working on lesson plans, preparing for parent-teacher conferences, organizing the art room. I sat in the driver's seat of her Honda Civic in our driveway, surrounded by suburban Saturday morning sounds, a lawnmower 2 houses over, kids playing basketball in the street, a dog barking, and counted 17 pieces of evidence that my wife had been systematically lying to me for months. I Googled the name, Derek Allen Mitchell, real estate developer from Chicago. Bought the old textile mill property at the edge of town 6 months ago. Plans to convert it into luxury condos. Divorced. 2 kids, both in college, 41 years old. There were photos, square jaw, expensive haircut, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. The kind of guy who looked at small towns like Millbrook and saw investment opportunities, not home. I put the cards back exactly how I'd found them. Rubber band in the same place, same position in the console. Then I took one, just one, slipped it into my pocket. Evidence. That night at dinner, I watched Jennifer. Really watched her. The way she checked her phone every few minutes, the way she'd excuse herself to take this call when a number popped up, the way she smiled at Sophie and asked about her day but seemed distracted, her mind somewhere else. Linda was still visiting. She'd extended her stay from a few days to 3 weeks now. She sat at the head of our table like she owned it, cutting her chicken with precise movements, making small comments about the meal, the house, the town. "This is lovely, Jennifer," Linda said, gesturing with her fork. "Very rustic." The way she said rustic, like it was a synonym for inadequate. Sophie pushed food around her plate. She'd been quieter lately. I'd noticed that too, less chatty, more withdrawn. She had her purple sketchbook beside her plate. She took it everywhere now, like a security blanket. "Sophie, how was soccer practice?" I asked. She shrugged. "Fine. Just fine. I don't think I want to do soccer anymore." Jennifer looked up. "What, honey, you love soccer." "I'm not good at it." Sophie's voice was small. "Coach said I need to be more aggressive, but I don't like being aggressive. I just want to draw." I reached across the table, touched her hand. "Then draw. You don't have to do anything that doesn't make you happy." Linda made a small sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a scoff. "Children need to learn persistence, Ryan. Not every activity is about happiness. Sometimes it's about building character." "She's 12, I said. My voice came out sharper than I intended. "She's building plenty of character." Linda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. You're the expert on child development." Jennifer touched her mother's arm. "Mom." "I'm simply saying," Linda continued, adjusting that coral and navy scarf at her throat, "that in my experience as a principal for 30 years, children benefit from structure and challenge, not just doing whatever feels comfortable." I bit my tongue, gripped my fork a little too hard. Sophie picked up her sketchbook, flipped it open, started drawing right there at the table. Her way of checking out when the adults got tense. I wanted to look at what she was drawing, wanted to see if she was documenting this too, the undercurrents, the tension, the way her grandmother looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. But I didn't. I just finished my dinner and helped clear the table and pretended everything was normal. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those 17 business cards, about Derek Allen Mitchell's square jaw and expensive suits, about fake workshops and hotel receipts for 2, about my wife choosing to lie for 3 weeks straight. At 2 a.m, I got up, went to the bathroom, pulled that crushed Clearblue box out of the back of my sock drawer where I'd hidden it, sat on the edge of the bathtub and stared at it. 5 days early detection. She'd tested immediately. The moment she got home from Chicago, she'd bought this test and found out she was pregnant. And then she'd had to decide, tell me the truth about what happened that weekend, or announce it like it was ours and hope I never did the math. I thought about Sophie, about the way she'd been withdrawing lately, about her drawings. I thought about my father's whistle around my neck. I thought about standing in front of 45 teenage boys and telling them about honor and integrity and being men of character. And I realized I had a choice to make, a terrible choice. The kind that doesn't have a good answer, only less bad ones. I could stay quiet, pretend I didn't know. Raise this baby as mine, keep my family intact, protect Sophie from the fallout, keep my position as coach, keep my reputation in a town where everyone knows everyone's business, keep my life exactly as it was. Or I could tell the truth, blow up my marriage, my family, my daughter's stability, become the guy everyone whispers about at the grocery store. Force Sophie to understand that her mother had betrayed us both. Lose everything I'd built here. This town raised me. Now I had to decide who I was raising my daughter to be. Someone who values comfort over truth, or someone who understands that honor costs something? I wrapped the test box back up, put it in my pocket, went downstairs to get some water, and that's when I heard them, Jennifer and Linda, in the living room. I thought they were asleep. But there they were, voices low, talking in that way people do when they think no one can hear. Can't keep doing this, Jennifer was saying. It's too much. He's going to figure it out. He won't. Linda's voice was calm, certain. Ryan's a good man, but he's not particularly observant. And he's so desperate to believe in you in this life that he'll accept whatever you tell him. Mom, I don't know if I can... Jennifer, listen to me. You've spent 8 years in this town, 8 years in that little school, teaching finger painting to children who will never leave Wisconsin. You gave up your dreams to marry a high school football coach who will never be more than what he is right now. Don't you want more? A long silence. Then Jennifer, so quietly I almost didn't hear. Derek said he could help me. Said there are art therapy programs in Chicago. Real opportunities. Exactly. And this pregnancy, this is your chance. Your way out. Ryan will never suspect. He's too honorable, too trusting. You tell him it's his, you have the baby, and then Derek can help you transition to Chicago. You can tell Ryan the marriage isn't working, irreconcilable differences. He'll give you joint custody because that's the kind of man he is, and you'll be free. I stood in the hallway, in the dark, holding an empty glass, listening to my wife and mother-in-law discuss my character like I was a character in a play they were writing, too honorable, too trusting. My father's whistle felt heavy around my neck, like it might drag me down through the floor. What about Sophie? Jennifer asked. Sophie will adjust. Children are resilient, and honestly, Jennifer, she's got Ryan's temperament, quiet, a little too sensitive. If you have another child with Derek's genetics, you might... I moved. Didn't even think about it. Stepped into the doorway. They both froze. Jennifer's face went white. Linda's expression barely changed, just a slight tightening around her eyes. Ryan. Jennifer stood up. We were just... I heard. My voice sounded strange, flat, like it was coming from somewhere else. I heard everything. It's not what it sounds like, Jennifer said. She was crying now. I can explain. I looked at Linda. She looked back, and I saw it then. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't ashamed. She was annoyed that I'd interrupted. Does Sophie know you think she's too sensitive? I asked. My hand found the whistle. Does she know you want to replace her with Derek's child? That's not... I never said that. You just did. I looked at Jennifer. Tell me the truth. Right now. Is the baby mine? She opened her mouth, closed it, started crying harder. That was answer enough. But then from the stairs, Dad. We all turned. Sophie stood there in her pajamas, holding her purple sketchbook against her chest like armor. Her eyes were wide, too wide, the way kids look when they understand something they're too young to understand. Sophie, honey, go back to bed, Jennifer said, moving toward her. But Sophie looked at me. Dad, what's happening? I wanted to lie, wanted to tell her everything was fine, go back to sleep. Adults are just talking, but I couldn't, not anymore. Tomorrow, I said, tomorrow we'll talk, I promise. Sophie nodded slowly, looked at her mother, then her grandmother, then back at me. Then she turned and walked upstairs. I heard her bedroom door close, very quietly. And I knew in that moment that my daughter had heard everything too. This town raised me. But Sophie? I was raising her to know that sometimes the adults you trust most are capable of terrible things. And that being too sensitive, too quiet, too much like your father, there was nothing wrong with that at all. The next morning, I didn't go into work. Called in sick for the first time in 12 years. Jennifer took Sophie to school. Our daughter hadn't said a word at breakfast, just pushed cereal around her bowl and stared at her purple sketchbook like it held answers none of us had. After they left, I sat at the kitchen table with that crushed pregnancy test box in front of me. The house was too quiet. I could hear the refrigerator humming, a car passing on the street outside, the clock ticking above the stove. My phone rang. Coach Pete. Ryan, you all right? School called saying you're out sick. I stared at the blue and white cardboard. Yeah, Coach. Just need a day. Silence on the other end. Then, son, I have known you since you were in diapers. Your daddy and I coached together for 23 years. I know when something's wrong. Pete, I'm not asking you to tell me. I'm just saying when you're ready, I'm here. Your daddy would want someone looking out for you. My throat closed up. I touched the whistle. Thanks, Coach. And Ryan, whatever it is, don't make any big decisions alone. That's when we make mistakes. When we're alone with it. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, thinking about what he'd said. Don't make any big decisions alone. But I was alone, completely alone in this. The only person in Millbrook who knew my wife was pregnant with another man's child. The only person carrying this weight, except I wasn't. Sophie had heard. Sophie knew something was wrong, even if she didn't know all the details, and I couldn't protect her from it anymore. My phone buzzed. Text from Connor, my younger brother down in Milwaukee. Ma's birthday next month. You coming down, or should I come up? I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed, can you come up this weekend? Need to talk. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, that bad? Yeah. I'll be there Friday night. By the time I got to school Tuesday afternoon for practice, word had spread that I'd been out. Kids asking if I was okay. Other teachers giving me concerned looks. In a town of 8,200, a beloved coach calling in sick makes the gossip rounds fast. I stood on the practice field, whistle around my neck, watching my boys run drills. But I wasn't really watching. I was somewhere else entirely. Coach! I blinked. Marcus Johnson was standing in front of me, helmet in hand, 17 years old and looking worried. You called the same play 3 times in a row, Coach. You sure you're good? I looked at my clipboard. He was right. I'd circled the same play over and over, my pen digging grooves into the paper. Sorry, Marcus. Head's not in the game today. You want to talk about it? This 17-year-old kid asking if I wanted to talk about it. I was supposed to be teaching him, not the other way around. Just some personal stuff. I'll work it out. Coach Donovan. Marcus shifted his weight, looked down at his cleats. Last year, when my parents split up, you told me something. You said, the hardest plays aren't on the field, they're in real life. And you run them the same way, one step at a time, asking for help when you need it. I remembered. I'd meant every word. So, Marcus continued, if you need help, you got 45 guys here who'd run through a wall for you. Just saying. He jogged back to the line. I stood there gripping my whistle so hard the metal edges cut into my palm. Coach Pete appeared beside me. He didn't say anything at first. Just stood there watching the boys run plays, his old knees probably aching, his 71 years showing in the way he favored his left leg. You know what your daddy used to say? Pete's voice was quiet. He said, Pete, we're not just teaching football. We're teaching boys how to be men. And men don't hide when things get hard. They stand in the truth, even when it costs them. I couldn't look at him. What if the truth costs everything? Then you find out what you're really made of. Practice ended. The boys headed to the locker room. I stayed on the field, under the lights that were just starting to flicker on as dusk settled over Millbrook. The grass smelled like autumn and sweat and high school dreams. My father had stood on this field for 23 years, taught thousands of boys about honor and character, wore this whistle until the day he died. And now I was standing here, wearing his whistle, carrying his legacy, trying to decide if I had the courage to live up to what he'd taught me. Friday night, Connor's truck pulled into my driveway at 7. He got out, 32, built like the firefighter he is, wearing jeans and a Milwaukee FD t-shirt. He took one look at my face and said, "Where's Jennifer?" "At her mother's hotel, with Sophie." "Good, show me what you got." I spread everything out on the kitchen table. The pregnancy test box, the fake workshop brochure, the hotel receipt, Derek's business card, and the new thing I'd found, Harvest Festival committee minutes. Connor picked up the spiral notebook, blue cover worn at the edges, pages thin enough to see through when held to light. The spiral made little clicking sounds as he flipped through it. What am I looking at? Page 37, August meeting notes. He found it, read. His jaw tightened. Jennifer volunteered for vendor coordination? Her mother volunteered her name. I checked with the actual committee. Jennifer never contacted a single vendor, never went to any coordination meetings. The whole thing was an alibi structure. Connor set down the notebook, picked up the business card, then the workshop brochure, then the hotel receipt, laid them out in a row like he was building a case. "Ryan," his voice was careful, "this isn't an affair, this is a conspiracy." "I know." "No, I don't think you do." He tapped the festival minutes. Linda volunteered Jennifer's name in June, 2 months before the Chicago trip. Then there's this fake workshop. Someone had to design this brochure, print it, make it look real enough that Jennifer would believe it. And these business cards... He picked up Derek's card again, felt the heavy cardstock between his fingers. 17 meetings. That's not spontaneous. That's systematic. I sat down. The chair scraped against the floor, too loud in the quiet kitchen. Connor pulled out his phone. "What's this guy's full name again?" "Derek Allen Mitchell." "Why?" "Because I'm a firefighter, which means I know how to Google someone properly." His thumbs moved across the screen. Derek Allen Mitchell, Chicago real estate developer, divorced, bought the mill property. Here we go. Divorce filing, public record. He scrolled. Divorce finalized March 2022. Reason given, adultery. And look at this. His ex-wife's name is Vanessa Mitchell. Attorney. Still practices in Chicago. So? Connor looked up. So I'm going to call her. because I bet she'd love to know her ex-husband is pulling the same moves in Millbrook that he did wherever else. Connor, you can't just... But he was already dialing. It took Connor 3 days to track down Vanessa Mitchell's office number. She called back Tuesday morning while I was in my classroom during prep period grading papers on the Industrial Revolution. My phone rang. Unknown Chicago number. Is this Ryan Donovan? Woman's voice, professional, sharp. Yes? My name is Vanessa Mitchell. Connor Donovan gave me your number. I understand my ex-husband is currently involved in your town. I set down my pen. That's one way to put it. Mr. Donovan, I'm going to be very direct because you deserve to know what you're dealing with. Derek did this before. Twice. Different small towns, different renovation projects, different wives. The classroom suddenly felt very cold. What do you mean? In 2019, he bought a property in Rockford. Historic building, needed restoration. He targeted a local teacher whose husband worked in manufacturing. Promised her career opportunities in Chicago, told her she was wasting her potential in a dead-end town. 6 months later, she was pregnant. He ghosted her the moment his project got city approval. I couldn't breathe. In 2022, this is what ended our marriage. He did it in Aurora. Same pattern, small town development project, unhappy wife, promises of sophistication and opportunity. That time it was a minister's wife. He told her she was too talented to be stuck in a church basement teaching Sunday school. Jesus Christ. Mr. Donovan, your mother-in-law called him. Her voice was steady, like she'd rehearsed this, like she'd been waiting years to tell someone. I know because he kept the email, showed it to me during the divorce proceedings. Linda Parker contacted him in June, told him her daughter was desperate for career opportunity and city sophistication, asked if he'd be willing to show Jennifer the possibilities beyond Millbrook. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Students passed in the hallway outside, laughing about something, normal teenage noise. She recruited him, I said. My voice sounded far away. Yes, and Derek? This is what he does. He targets marriages in small towns where he's doing development projects, finds women who feel trapped, promises them escape, makes them pregnant, and disappears once the project is approved or he gets bored. It's a pattern. It's who he is. I thought about Linda's coral and navy scarf, about her sitting at our dinner table talking about rustic and quality and children needing challenge, about her touching Jennifer's arm and whispering about opportunities, about her looking at Sophie and calling her too sensitive. This wasn't about passion. It wasn't even about affair. This was calculated, systematic. My mother-in-law had looked at my marriage, at my daughter, at me, and decided we weren't good enough, had recruited a predator to destroy what we'd built. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because Derek got away with it twice. The women were too ashamed to say anything publicly, too worried about their reputations in small towns. And I let him keep those emails because I thought, I don't know what I thought, that it was over, that he'd stop, but he won't stop. And your wife? Her voice softened slightly. She's not the villain here, Mr. Donovan. She's another target. Linda is the architect. Derek is the weapon. Your wife is just another casualty in a pattern neither of them intend to break. After we hung up, I sat at my desk for a long time. Outside the window, I could see Main Street, the hardware store, the diner, the bank that had been there since 1923, Millbrook, population 8,200. In this town, everyone knows everyone's business. Linda had said that, said it like a threat. But she was wrong about one thing. This wasn't just my business anymore. I found Linda in the school parking lot that evening. She was waiting beside her rental car, some expensive sedan that looked wrong, parked between teachers' Hondas and Subarus. Ryan, she smiled, that perfect, practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. I was just leaving. I talked to Vanessa Mitchell. The smile froze, then slowly faded. I don't know who that is. Derek's ex-wife. The attorney. The one who has copies of your emails recruiting him to seduce my wife. Linda's hand went to her throat, to that scarf. She twisted it slightly, Silk whispering, "You need to be very careful about what you say next, Ryan." "Is that a threat?" "It's advice." She stepped closer. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a few cars scattered around, no witnesses. She'd timed this deliberately. "You're upset, I understand, but you need to think about Sophie, about what's best for her." "I am thinking about Sophie." "Are you? Because from where I'm standing, you're about to blow up her entire life, her mother's reputation, her family's stability, all because you can't accept that Jennifer deserves better than being stuck in this town." My hands were shaking. I shoved them in my pockets. "Sophie heard you," I said. "Monday night. She heard you say she's too sensitive, that you want to replace her with Derek's child." Something flickered across Linda's face. Not shame, annoyance. Children are resilient. "You recruited a predator to impregnate your daughter so you could get her away from me." "I provided Jennifer with options, with opportunities, something you failed to do in 8 years." The sun was setting behind the school, casting long shadows across the parking lot. Somewhere, a car door slammed. Normal evening sounds. "If you make this ugly," Linda said quietly, "I will tell everyone you've been abusive, that Jennifer has been afraid of you, that she came to me for help, that this pregnancy," she smiled, "was her trying to save the marriage, but you rejected the baby because you knew it would tie her to Millbrook forever." I stared at her. No one would believe that. Wouldn't they? She tilted her head. "The beloved coach who everyone thinks is so perfect. The golden boy who came home after his NFL dreams died. Maybe you've been bitter. Maybe you've been taking it out on your wife. Maybe that's why she needed to find comfort elsewhere. I have never... Who do you think this town will believe, Ryan? You, or the poor mother protecting her daughter from a man who's become unstable?" She adjusted her scarf. Smooth, practiced movement. "In Millbrook, everyone knows everyone's business. Make sure they know the right story." She got in her car, started the engine. The expensive sedan purred, nothing like the rattle of my 10-year-old pickup truck. She rolled down the window. "Think about Sophie, about what you're teaching her. Is it honor or is it selfishness?" Then she drove away. I stood in the parking lot, gravel crunching under my boots, my father's whistle heavy around my neck, and realized that Linda Parker was willing to destroy me completely to cover what she'd done. And in a town this small, she might actually succeed. So here's where I was. Linda had just threatened to destroy my reputation with false abuse allegations. Derek had the town council in his pocket because his mill renovation project meant jobs and tax revenue. Jennifer was pregnant with his child and too deep in her mother's manipulation to see clearly. And Sophie was drawing storm clouds and asking if she was too sensitive to be loved. If you were me, would you keep quiet to protect Sophie from the gossip machine type P-Rotect, or tell the truth no matter what it costs type truth? What would you do? Because I had 48 hours to decide. I see both in the comments. You're split just like I was. Here's what I chose. Wednesday afternoon, I drove out to the old mill, Derek's construction site. His trucks were parked around the property, expensive equipment, crews of workers in hard hats, the smell of sawdust and concrete dust thick in the air. I found him inside, looking at blueprints spread across a makeshift table. He was wearing a suit despite the construction zone, expensive watch on his wrist catching the light. "Ryan Donovan." He didn't look surprised. "I wondered when you'd show up." "We need to talk." "Do we?" He rolled up the blueprints slowly, precisely. "I don't think we have anything to discuss. You got my wife pregnant." Derek smiled, not embarrassed, not apologetic, amused. "Did I? Interesting claim. Hard to prove." "Vanessa told me everything." The smile faded slightly. my ex-wife has an active imagination. Rockford, Aurora, now Millbrook, same pattern, same moves. You target unhappy wives, promise them the world, make them pregnant, and disappear. Derek stepped closer. Around us, construction sounds, hammering, machinery, men calling to each other in Spanish. He kept his voice low enough that only I could hear. You really think this town matters, Donovan? I'll get my project approved, collect my fee, and forget Millbrook exists in 6 months. But you? You'll still be here, stuck, teaching history to kids who will never leave Wisconsin, coaching football like it's the most important thing in the world. He adjusted his expensive watch. Linda was right. You're a small town nothing who's been holding Jennifer back. She deserves better. She deserves the truth. Truth? Derek laughed. The truth is that men like you build little kingdoms in little towns and convince yourselves you're important, but walk 20 feet off Main Street and nobody knows your name. Nobody cares about your championship seasons or your inspiring speeches. You're invisible. I thought about my father, about 23 years on that practice field, about 45 boys who looked at me like I mattered. You're right, I said. Nobody outside Millbrook knows my name, but everybody inside Millbrook does. And when your mill project goes before town council next week, every single person in that room will know mine, will know what you did. Derek's expression changed, just slightly. A crack in the expensive facade. Are you threatening my project? I'm just saying, in Millbrook, everyone knows everyone's business. I turned to leave. Derek's voice followed me. You'll regret this, Donovan. I promise you that. Maybe, but I'd regret staying silent more. Thursday afternoon, Maya Patel called during my lunch period. Ryan, I need you to come to the art room, now. Her voice was wrong, tight, worried. I found her in her classroom, alone, door closed. The art room smelled like paint and clay and middle school creativity. Student work covered every wall, bright, chaotic, hopeful. Except for what Maya was holding, Sophie's purple sketchbook, the one she carried everywhere, the one she'd been drawing in constantly. She left it here after class, Maya said quietly. It fell open when I picked it up to put it in her backpack. Ryan, I'm a mandated reporter. I'm required to document concerning behavior. But you're her father, so I wanted you to see this first. She handed me the sketchbook. The cover was soft fabric under my fingers, worn from constant handling. Band stickers, Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, cheerful and normal. I opened it. The first pages were what I expected. Sophie's usual drawings, ocean creatures in bright colors, dolphins, manta rays, octopi with careful detail, her handwriting labeling each one, spelling improving as the pages progressed. Then the drawings changed. It must have started around the time Jennifer announced the pregnancy. Maybe before. The colors got darker. The subjects changed from ocean life to people. Our family. Page after page of family portraits, but wrong, all wrong. In the first one, Jennifer was lighter than the rest of us, faded at the edges like Sophie had pressed too lightly with the pencil. In the next, Jennifer was even fainter, transparent. By the most recent drawings, Jennifer was barely there at all, a ghost, an outline. Linda was drawn as a black storm cloud, literally, dark scribbles with angry edges hovering over everyone else, sharp, destructive. And me? I was bright, solid, but surrounded by shadows. Darkness closing in from all sides. Sophie had drawn herself small, curled up, colors muted. Maya turned to the most recent page. Read the note. In the corner, in Sophie's careful handwriting, she'd used spell check. You could tell from how precisely she'd formed each letter. When adults lie, does that make kids liars too if we pretend we don't know? I sat down, hard, my legs just gave out. Ryan, Maya's voice was gentle. This level of awareness in a 12-year-old. She knows something's broken. She's processing trauma through her art. And this question, she touched the notebook. She's asking if silence makes her complicit. How long has she been drawing these? The dark one started about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. The exact moment Jennifer announced the pregnancy. Sophie had known. Maybe not the details, maybe not the full truth. But she'd known something was wrong. Had watched her mother fade. Had watched her grandmother become a storm. Had watched me get surrounded by darkness. And she'd been documenting it, trying to understand it, asking herself if pretending everything was okay made her a liar too. My 12-year-old daughter, she already knew. What do I do? I asked, my voice cracked. How do I protect her from this? Maya sat down beside me. Ryan, I don't think you can protect her from it. She's already in it. The question is, do you teach her that adults hide painful truths? Or do you teach her that truth matters even when it hurts? I looked at Sophie's drawings again, at Jennifer's fading outline, at Linda's storm cloud, at my own bright figure surrounded by closing darkness, at Sophie drawn small and scared and asking questions no child should have to ask. This town raised me. But I was raising Sophie, and I had to decide, what was I teaching her? That comfort matters more than truth? Or that honor costs something, but it's worth the price? I closed the sketchbook carefully. The purple fabric cover was soft under my palm. All those band stickers, all that innocent decoration covering so much pain. Can I keep this? I asked. Maya nodded. Talk to her, Ryan. She needs to know it's okay to ask questions. That seeing the truth doesn't make her bad. It makes her brave. I walked out of that art room holding my daughter's sketchbook against my chest like it was the most precious thing in the world. Because it was. It was evidence of her awareness, her intelligence, her courage. Sophie was too sensitive. Linda had said it like a criticism. But maybe being sensitive, being aware, being observant, being brave enough to document painful truth, maybe that wasn't a weakness at all. Maybe it was exactly the kind of strength this family needed. Someone I loved hurt me. Someone I trusted lied. And I have to decide, do I hide it because everyone's watching? Do I pretend everything's fine to protect my reputation, my position, my comfort? My voice cracked, just slightly. But I kept going. Or do I show you what honor actually looks like? Honor is admitting when you're hurt, asking for help when you need it, choosing truth even when a lie would be so much easier. That's the play I'm running. That's what I'm teaching you. Marcus stood up first, just stood there, this 17-year-old quarterback with his whole life ahead of him, standing in solidarity. Then Jackson Torres stood, then Kyle Patterson, then another and another, the whole team, all 45 of them, standing, and then they started clapping, slow at first, then building, not cheering, not celebrating, just acknowledging, witnessing, supporting. Coach Pete had tears running down his 71-year-old face. I stood there holding my father's whistle in front of these boys who'd just taught me more about courage than I'd ever taught them, and I finally understood what honor costs. Everything, and it's worth it. After they filed out to practice, Coach Pete put his hand on my shoulder. "Your daddy," he said, voice rough with emotion, "would be so damn proud of you right now." I couldn't speak, just nodded. "This town raised you right, son. Now you're showing us what that means." That evening, I sat down with Sophie. In her bedroom, door closed, just us. She had her purple sketchbook in her lap, holding it like a shield. "Dad," she said before I could start, "I'm sorry I was listening Monday night. I didn't mean to spy. I just heard voices and—" "Stop!" I knelt beside her bed, eye level. "You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing. Do you understand me?" Her eyes filled with tears. She shook her head. "Sophie, I saw your drawings. Ms. Patel showed me." She went very still. "You're mad." "No. God, no. I'm amazed. You're 12 years old and you've been documenting something most adults wouldn't even see. You knew something was wrong. You've been so brave." "I don't feel brave. I feel..." Her voice got small. I feel like maybe it's my fault. Like maybe if I was different, Mom wouldn't. Sophie and Donovan. I took her hands. They were so small. When did they get so small? Look at me. Your grandmother said you were too sensitive. You heard that, right? She nodded, tears spilling over. She's wrong. Being sensitive, being aware, being observant, being brave enough to see truth even when it hurts, that's not weakness. That's strength. That's exactly the kind of person I want you to be. But Grandma wants Mom to leave. And she said, I know what she said about you having my temperament, about being quiet, about needing another baby to be better. Sophie was crying hard now. Does Mom think I'm broken? I pulled her into my arms. She buried her face in my shoulder, still clutching that purple sketchbook, and sobbed like her heart was breaking, because it was breaking. And I couldn't stop it. I could only be there while it happened. Your mom made a mistake, I said into her hair. A big one. She let Grandma convince her that this life, our life here in Millbrook, wasn't good enough. That you and I weren't good enough. And she's wrong, Sophie, so wrong. Is Mom leaving? I don't know, probably. But that's not because of you. It's because she made choices. Adult choices, bad ones. Sophie pulled back, looked at me with those eyes that saw too much. Is the baby yours? And there it was. The question I'd been dreading. I could lie. Could protect her from this one last thing. Could tell her, yes, of course, everything's fine. But I'd stood in front of my team and talked about choosing truth. I'd held her sketchbook and seen her question. When adults lie, does that make kids liars too if we pretend we don't know? No, I said quietly. The baby's not mine. She absorbed this, processed it with that 12-year-old brain that was simultaneously too young and too old for this conversation. But you're still my dad, right? My throat closed up completely. I touched the whistle, my father's whistle. Sophie, do you know why I wear this every day? She shook her head. Because my dad taught me something. He taught me that being a father isn't about biology. It's about showing up. It's about choosing every single day to love someone, to protect them, to teach them, to be there when everything falls apart. I took the whistle off. For the first time in 12 years, I took it off my neck. This whistle, it stopped working years ago. See? I showed her the frozen hands inside the little window. It stopped at 3:17. That was the exact time my father walked out on us when I was 10 years old. Sophie's eyes went wide. Grandpa Tom left? For 2 years. He had an affair, broke my mother's heart, broke mine. But you know what? He came back. He chose to come back. He worked every single day to earn our trust again. And he taught me that family isn't about who you're born to. It's about who shows up, who stays, who chooses you. I put the whistle in her hands. You, Sophie Ann Donovan, are mine. Not because of biology, because I choose you every single day, forever. She looked at the whistle, at the frozen time, at her father's name engraved on the side. Does Grandma think I'm not good enough? Grandma forgot that different isn't wrong, quiet isn't weak, sensitive isn't broken. She forgot that the best people, the ones worth knowing, are the ones who feel deeply and love fiercely and see truth even when it hurts. Sophie held the whistle carefully. Dad, are you going to be okay? And somehow, looking at my daughter's tear-stained face, at her purple walls and her ocean drawings and her courage, I knew the answer. Yeah, we're going to be okay. It's going to hurt for a while. It's going to be hard, but we're going to be okay. Together? Together. She hugged me again, still holding that whistle, and I felt something shift. Some weight I'd been carrying, the weight of pretending, of protecting her from truth, of trying to keep everything perfect. It lifted, not gone, but lighter, because she knew now, and she was still here, still mine, still strong. This town raised me. But I was raising Sophie to know that home isn't a place. It's the people who show up when everything falls apart. And I was showing up. The town council meeting was Tuesday night. Packed room, at least 80 people crammed into a space meant for 50. Everyone in Millbrook knew something was happening. The gossip had done its work. Derek sat in the front row, expensive suit, confident posture, his lawyer beside him. The mill project was on the agenda, final approval vote for the renovation permits. Linda wasn't there. She'd checked out of her hotel that morning, driven back to Chicago. She knew what was coming. Jennifer sat in the back, alone. She'd moved into her mother's hotel room after our conversation. We'd barely spoken since, but she was here, watching. I sat with Connor. My brother had driven up from Milwaukee again, taken 2 days off work to be here. "You sure about this?" he whispered. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Council President Martha Hayes called the meeting to order. She was 62, had taught elementary school for 35 years before retiring to run for council. She'd known my father, had taught me in 3rd grade. "First item," Martha said, "is the Mitchell Development Group's application for renovation permits on the old mill property. Mr. Mitchell, you have the floor." Derek stood, gave his presentation. Economic impact, job creation, tax revenue, revitalization of historic property, all true, all compelling. When he finished, Martha asked, "Is there any public comment?" I stood up. "I have something to say." The room got very quiet. You could hear people shifting in their chairs, that particular sound of collective attention focusing. "Most of you know me," I started. "I've lived here my whole life. My father coached your kids. I'm coaching your grandkids now. This town raised me, taught me about honor and integrity and what it means to be part of a community." I looked at Derek. He was watching me with barely concealed contempt. "Mr. Mitchell is right about the economic benefits of his project. The mill does need renovation. Jobs would be good for Millbrook. But I need to tell you something about Mr. Mitchell's character, about why I can't stay silent while this council gives him approval." I pulled out my phone, opened the email Vanessa had forwarded me. This is an email from Linda Parker to Derek Mitchell, dated June 15th of this year. Linda is my mother-in-law. In this email, she asked Derek if he'd be willing to show her daughter Jennifer the possibilities beyond Millbrook. She describes my wife as desperate for career opportunity and city sophistication. She asked Derek to help Jennifer see what she's missing. The room erupted. Whispers, gasps, people turning to each other. Martha banged her gavel. "Order, Mr. Donovan, continue." "Derek Mitchell has a pattern. In 2019 in Rockford, Illinois, he did this same thing. Targeted a married woman during a development project, made her pregnant, left when the project was approved. In 2022 in Aurora, same pattern. Minister's wife, same results." Derek's lawyer stood up. "This is slander. It's documented," Connor said, standing beside me. "I have divorce records. I have testimony from Mr. Mitchell's ex-wife who's willing to testify about this pattern. I have hotel records from the Riverfront Plaza in Chicago showing Jennifer Donovan and Derek Mitchell checked into the same room in August." The room went dead silent. "My wife is pregnant," I continued. My voice was steady, calm. "With Derek Mitchell's child. This happened because my mother-in-law recruited him to seduce my wife as part of a plan to get Jennifer to leave Millbrook, to leave me, to leave our daughter." I looked at the council members, at Martha Hayes, at the people I'd known my whole life. "I'm not telling you this to hurt my wife. She's a victim here too. I'm telling you because this is who Derek Mitchell is. This is what he does. And I won't stay silent while this town gives him approval, gives him legitimacy, gives him the power to do this again to someone else's family." I sat down. My hands were shaking. Connor put his hand on my shoulder. Derek's lawyer was talking, arguing procedure, arguing slander, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching the council members' faces, watching them process, watching them decide. Martha Hayes looked at Derek. Her face was stone. Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I expect a direct answer. Is Mr. Donovan's statement true? Derek stood, smoothed his expensive tie. Mrs. Hayes, with all due respect, my personal life is not relevant to, answer the question. I don't see how... Mr. Mitchell, did you have an affair with Jennifer Donovan? Is she pregnant with your child? Silence. Derek's jaw worked. He looked at his lawyer, looked at the counsel, looked at the room full of Millbrook residents staring at him. Yes, he said finally, but that's all I needed to hear. Martha looked at the other council members. I move that we table this application indefinitely pending further investigation into Mr. Mitchell's business practices and character. All in favor? 6 hands went up, unanimous. Motion carries. Martha banged her gavel. Mr. Mitchell, this council votes no on your project. I suggest you conclude your business in Millbrook and move on. She looked at me then, and for just a second, her stern expression softened. Mr. Donovan, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but I want you to know something. Your father would be proud of how you handled this. This town raised you right. Welcome home, son, the real home, the one built on truth. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life. Jennifer and I divorced. It was surprisingly civil. She was in therapy by then, starting to see how her mother had manipulated her, how Derek had targeted her, how she'd made terrible choices born from feeling trapped and inadequate. We agreed on primary custody for me. Sophie would live with me. Jennifer got supervised visitation every other weekend, pending her therapy progress. The baby, Jennifer chose adoption. With help from Maya, she found a wonderful couple in Madison. Teachers, both of them. They'd been trying for years. When I met them, I could see the love they'd give that child, the home they'd build. Jennifer signed the papers in April. I was there, held her hand while she cried. I'm so sorry, she whispered, for everything. I know. Tell Sophie, tell her I love her. Tell her I'm going to get better, that I'm going to be the mom she deserves. I will. The baby was born May 3rd, a boy, healthy, perfect. The adoptive parents named him Thomas, after my father. Jennifer asked if that was okay. I said yes, some grief deserves to become something beautiful. Derek left town 3 days after the council vote. His development company pulled out of the mill project. The building sits empty now, but there's talk of a local investment group buying it, turning it into affordable housing. We'll see. Linda, I haven't spoken to her since. Jennifer says her mother refuses to admit she did anything wrong, still believes she was helping, still thinks Millbrook is beneath her daughter. Some people never learn. As for me, I kept coaching, kept teaching. There were some parents who called for my resignation, said the scandal made me unfit, but there were more parents who showed up at the school board meeting and defended me, more parents who reminded the board what I'd taught their sons about character. I kept my job. And my team, we had something to prove that year. Championship game, November 23rd, Friday night under the lights. The temperature had dropped to 38 degrees. You could see your breath. The smell of hot chocolate and popcorn mixed with the cold autumn air. Dead leaves crunched under the bleachers. The stands were packed. 2,800 people. We'd drawn a crowd from surrounding towns. Regional championship. Winner advances to state semifinals. I stood on the sideline, my father's whistle around my neck. Sophie had given it back to me 2 months ago, said she was ready, said she wanted me to have it for the championship season, and watched my boys take the field. Marcus Johnson at quarterback, Jackson Torres at receiver. 45 players who'd stood up for me when I needed them most. In the stands, I could see Sophie. She had her purple sketchbook open, but the drawings visible from here were bright, colorful. Ocean creatures again, healing happening one page at a time. Connor sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. My brother, who'd driven up from Milwaukee every other weekend since April, who'd become the uncle Sophie needed when her world fell apart. Maya Patel was there too, a few rows back, bundled in a Millbrook high scarf. She waved when I looked up. I waved back. Coach Pete stood beside me on the sideline, his old legs probably aching in the cold, but refusing to sit down. This was his last season before full retirement. He wanted to be standing for this one. Your daddy coached 3 championship games on this field, Pete said quietly. Won all 3. You ready to make it 4? I looked at the scoreboard. Home, 24. Visitor, 24. 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Tied game. I blew the whistle. Sharp, clear sound cutting through the crowd noise. Called the boys in. Huddle on the sideline. Listen up, I told them. This is it. This is the moment. Everything we've practiced. Everything we've learned this season. Not just about football, about character, about showing up when it's hard, about being men of integrity. I looked at Marcus, at Jackson, at all 45 of them. This town raised me. It taught me football. It taught me honor. And you know what? You've taught me something too. You've taught me that standing for truth, even when it costs you, even when people are watching, even when you're scared, that's what champions do. Marcus nodded. What's the play, coach? I smiled. Run it like we practiced. Trust each other. Trust yourselves. And remember, we don't win by being perfect. We win by being honest about who we are and playing our hearts out anyway. They ran back onto the field. I watched them line up. Watched Marcus call the play at the line. The ball snapped. Marcus dropped back. Jackson broke free down the sideline, defender 3 steps behind. Marcus threw. Perfect spiral, the kind that makes you believe in beautiful things. Jackson caught it at the 30, the 20, the 10, touchdown. The crowd erupted. The sound was deafening. People screaming, jumping, hugging strangers. That particular chaos that only exists when a small town's team wins something big. Home, 30. Visitor, 24. We won. The boys lifted me on their shoulders. Coach Pete was crying, 71 years old and crying like a baby. The cheerleaders were screaming. The band was playing the fight song, but I wasn't looking at any of that. I was looking at the stands, at Sophie standing up, her purple sketchbook open, drawing this moment. Connor had his arm around her, both of them grinning, both of them cheering. And the scoreboard behind them, the electronic board that had been there since my father's time, lights flickering slightly in the cold, read home 30. Visitor 24, home. Not just the score, the whole thing, the whole journey, all of it. After the celebration died down, after the trophy presentation, after the boys hit the locker room, I stood on that field with Coach Pete. Just the two of us and the stadium lights and the smell of victory. Your daddy would be so damn proud, Pete said again. His voice was rough with emotion and cold and age. I touched the whistle. You think? Son, I know. This season, what you did, choosing truth, protecting your daughter, teaching those boys about real integrity, that's not just coaching, that's legacy. Sophie came running down from the stands then, Connor following behind. She launched herself at me and I caught her, lifted her up even though she was getting too big for that, too old for her dad to lift her like she weighed nothing. We won, she shouted. Dad, we won. Yeah, we did. She pulled back, looked at me. I drew the whole game. Want to see? She opened her purple sketchbook. The pages were filled with bright colors now, the field in green, the players in blue and white, the scoreboard with its glowing numbers. And in the corner, 2 figures, one tall, one small, both solid and bright and together. Under them, in her improving handwriting, my real legacy, Dad and me. I couldn't speak, just held her tighter. Connor put his hand on my shoulder. You did good, brother. The stadium was emptying now. Families heading to cars, players heading to the locker room, the night getting colder. But I stood there for another minute, Sophie in my arms, my brother beside me, my father's whistle warm against my chest. This town raised me. It taught me football, taught me honor, taught me what it means to be part of something bigger than yourself. But Sophie, I was raising her to know something even more important. That home isn't a place. It's the people who show up when everything falls apart. It's the family you choose, not just the one you're born to. It's the courage to tell the truth even when everyone's watching. It's the strength to be sensitive, to be quiet, to feel deeply and love fiercely. Ryan and Sophie redefined what family means. Not who you're born to, but who shows up when everything falls apart. If you've built your own chosen family, if you've had people show up when you needed them most, tell me about them in the comments. I want to hear those stories. And if this one moved you, if you stayed all the way to this final whistle, subscribe. I tell stories about finding the courage to choose truth when everyone's watching, about rebuilding when everything breaks, about discovering that honor costs everything and it's worth the price. I'll see you in the next one. The scoreboard lights flickered one more time in the cold November air. Home 30. Visitor 24. We'd won. Not just the game, not just the season. We'd won ourselves back. And in a town of 8,200 where everyone knows everyone's business, that was the only victory that mattered. The whistle hung around my neck, tarnished silver catching the stadium lights, my father's name engraved on the side, and time, frozen at 3:17 for so many years, finally started moving forward again. Not because the whistle worked, but because we did. Because we chose truth. Because we chose each other, because we chose to be a family not defined by blood or circumstance or other people's expectations, but by love and courage and the simple act of showing up. That's what this town taught me, and that's what I'm teaching Sophie, one Friday night at a time.